I think we all know by now that League of Legends is so much more than just what the game offers. It's so much more than the champions and even more than the lore itself, because League of Legends lore is amazing. That's something that I grew to learn once I have watched Arcane, once I have been, diving into the lore, diving into the champions and regions, the stories behind it, realizing it's all connected, realizing that Riot is spending so much time to build all this, and it's sort of a crossover between different types of media. So it's not just the game, it's even not just the show, it's also like the cinematic trailers that they've been releasing, it's also the short stories that you can read on the website, it's also the comic books, it's also the story of every single champion, the biographies that you can read, and recently it's also books. So around a year ago they published a book called Ruination, written by Anthony Reynolds. Basically looks the same in an English copy. I did sort of a review when it comes to that book. It actually focuses on Ruination events, to be precise, events leading to the Ruination, leading to the tragedy that happened to Blessed Isles, which later on turned to Shadow Isles. Islands that are kind of close to Bilgewater, a threat to entire Runeterra, but Bilgewater most of all because they're just, nearby. Now recently Riot released yet another book that I read, and that's what I want to focus on today. That's what I want to discuss. I'm gonna assume that you have watched Arcane. We all have watched Arcane, and we know that middle of Arcane, Ambessa Medarda showed up, Mel Medarda's mother. She immediately became a threat. She came from Noxus, so this invasion, war-oriented region that's focused on the strength, focused on getting power, focused on influencing other regions. That's also one of the reasons why Ambessa showed up in Piltover, because she immediately recognized that there's some sort of a weapon that maybe she could use, for herself, because she is fighting battles of her own. We didn't know much about these battles. We knew that she had a son named Kino. We found out from Arcane that she has an enemy within the Black Rose organization. This organization that's been existing for like thousands of years. That's an organization that focuses on this black magic, gathers some mages together, organization that wants to be very influential. There's an entire lore surrounding Black Rose. I don't want to get into that at the moment too much. There's a lot to cover, but long story short, there's also like LeBlanc and Vladimir who started that organization. I recently reacted to LeBlanc's lore, her Legends of Runeterra cards, Vladimir's Legends of Runeterra cards, voice lines and everything. It's all bits of this and that hidden within different types of media, voice lines included. Book about Ambessa is called Chosen by the Wolf, and it was written by C.L. Clarke. C.L. Clarke is an author that wrote this trilogy that does include some queer representation, so without spoiling too much, Ambessa's book also has a bit of that. I'm gonna maybe lightly spoil some stuff for the book, but mostly focus on what the book is about without getting into specific details, but just be aware that I'll be briefly discussing the plot of the book without the crucial details. So this is what the book looks like. I also have like a Polish copy. I think it actually looks pretty neat. I like the contrast between red and the gray. It's been a lot of fun reading it because, like I said, Ambessa, I think she's the type of a character that I never actually grew to like. Even as a antagonist, sometimes there are some antagonists that you are afraid of, that you respect, but you're also like, oh, what's going on there, Like Silco. Silco was extremely charismatic, probably one of my favorite characters, but Ambessa was never that. I don't think Ambessa was actually like a successor to Silco's heritage. She had other things going on. In a big spectrum of things, she was a bit of an introduction to what they're building next. So, League of Legends next season, which is focused on Noxus, and the next show that will be probably Noxus oriented. We have already seen some trailers that show us Ambessa's past, like that battle where she faced the wolf and the sheep, kindred spirit. We know a bit of her past when she was challenging Mel to be more strength oriented, and we know that Mel is more diplomacy oriented. She was not quite the successor that Ambessa was hoping for, and that's why she sent her to Piltover. But there's a big missing piece between sending Mel to Piltover and between Ambessa coming to Piltover. Now that book covers exactly that. That book shows us how Noxus works, how power is crucial in Noxus, the way Medarda clan is functioning, how they're fighting for power, who's going to be, the next Medarda leader, sort of a thing. So we see Medarda fighting her cousin after her grandfather Menuik's death. They're sort of trying to decide who's going to be the next successor, who's going to lead the Medarda clan. We know that Ambessa is currently leading the Medarda clan, but we don't know how she became the leader, and that's what the book focuses on. It focuses on Mel's heritage, it focuses on Mel's brother. There are some familiar faces. I don't want to spoil too much, but it's no secret that Rictus is actually in the book. When you're reading the book, you can understand so much more how Rictus's death influenced Ambessa in Arcane, because Rictus was the person she probably trusted the most in the entire world, her family included. There's also a very, very interesting story when it comes to one other champion from League of Legends, and I do think I have to mention her name. If you have watched Arcane but you're not a League of Legends player, then it won't mean anything to you, and if you are a League of Legends player, then you probably know this already, but Rel champion is part of that book. She's one of the most important characters, actually. She does have this relation going on with Ambessa, and it gets very interesting. I don't want to, again, spoil too much, but there's definitely some sort of a bond going on. And if you know League of Legends lore, then you know that currently Rel is this champion that's sort of fighting for the Black Rose. Black Rose is using her potential, her magical potential, because she can use magic, and she is fighting sort of against Noxus. In the book, she is still fighting for Noxus in the arena. There's this arena like gladiators type, and she's part of that. So the book explains how Rel ended up where she ends up eventually. The book sort of explains Mel's heritage, Mel's approach to Medarda's ideals. Her brother is included, Kino. We know that he was never actually part of Arcane, like it was just a Black Rose trick. There's also a lot of Black Rose included and other interesting things that this book does focus on. So I would say it's a very highly recommended title, a big missing piece when it comes to Arcane. I can't imagine watching Arcane, especially second part of season 1 and season 2, without reading this, since this is available right now. That's the one missing piece if you want to watch Arcane and understand Ambessa, understand Rictus, understand Mel just a little bit more. And I think this book serves very nicely as an introduction to next show. It seems like since Rel was such an important part of the book, that Rel will be probably the Noxus focused show that's going to succeed Arcane. Needless to say, since the book is written by C.L. Clarke, like I said before, without getting into it, it does include a queer representation. By the way, I will be soon making a video about Runeterra's queer couple, so do stick around, because I want to discuss how Runeterra can be very, queer friendly and sort of versatile, and how it doesn't really matter with whom and who, and what their pronouns are. That sort of thing doesn't really exist, and Runeterra is not really that big of a deal. So yeah, I'll be discussing that very soon, focusing on Runeterra's iconic queer couples. The book does focus on Ambessa's goals, Ambessa's ideals. It adds so many more layers to her character that you actually, slowly get to like her and appreciate her a bit more. You understand Mel a bit more. There's this antagonism going on between them. The subject of motherhood, succession is an important part of this story, but also assumed family bonds, how far you're willing to go, questioning your own ideals, that sort of thing. It's all in that book. So obviously it's not some sort of a Lord of the Rings type of a level, but it's definitely a very interesting, pretty light read, and I do highly recommend it if you're a fan of Arcane, especially if you're a fan of League of Legends. This is just another piece that connects everything together, that it connects the show, the game, and it connects it to the next show. That's my opinion of the book. I very much enjoyed reading it. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say today. Thank you so much for watching. As always, major shout out to my patrons. There are exclusive League of Legends related videos on my Patreon, so I do invite you to join. Thank you so much to everyone who is supporting me watching my videos. Stay safe, guys. Bye.